Sukha, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Tes. Hameshalshel defonois milmalo lamata. Someone who lowers or drops the walls from above to below. What does that mean? Explains the Bartanura. Moirid, he lowers. Shehischil larug hadfonois somuch leschach. The person started perhaps weaving walls, started from above and slowly building up and dropping the sides of the walls, forming the walls. Slowly filling out the walls from above to below. Im gavoya min haaretz shloisha tfachim psula. If by the time he reaches the lower end of this wall, if there are 3 tfachim space at the base, then this wall is not good enough and the sukkah will be psula. Explains the Bartanura, based on the Gemara, that once there's 3 tfachim at the base, a space of 3 tfachim, it means a small goat could easily jump into the sukkah, and therefore that is really not considered a mechitza. That's not a barrier, that's not a partition at all, and therefore that wall doesn't count, and the sukkah would be a sukkah pesula. If, however, one was building up the wall, milmato lamala, starting at the lower end and building up, im gavoya min haaretz asora tefachim, once it had reached a height of 10 tefachim, keshera, the sukkah is a kosher sukkah, and the wall is considered a good wall. Says the Bartanura, afilu einun magias l'schach, even if it doesn't reach the height of the schach, umuflogos mimenu harbe, there could be a very big gap between the top of these 10 tefachim and the start, or the height of the schach itself, that would still be good enough. And the principle used in the Gemara mentioned is good asik, which means draw and pull up. Good asik, which means we consider this wall as actually a partition going right up to the schach itself. And that's why this wall is a good wall. Rabbi Yossi disagrees. Rabbi Yossi oimer, Kashem shem milamato lamalo asorat tfachim. Just as we mentioned, a wall which is 10 tfachim high, that is considered a partition. Kach milamalo lamato. Also, if one was building this wall, but starting at the top end, the first part of this Mishnah, and lowering, weaving, for example, the wall, also kach milamalo lamato asorat tfachim. 10 tfachim would be good enough. Again, says the Bartanura, afilu gavoyas min haaretz harbe, even though the wall may be actually very high up from the ground itself, as long as one had 10 tefachim of the wall, starting from the top, coming down, that would be considered a good wall. It's what's called a mechitza teluya, a hanging partition, and that's good enough according to Rabbi Yossi. However, says the Bartanura of Ein Halacha ka Rabbi Yossi, we don't paskin like this, and therefore the wall must actually descend to the ground to be considered a wall. Once one has the 3 tefachim, as we mentioned earlier, at the base of a space, that would make the sukkah a sukkah psula. Continues the Mishnah, and this time rather than talking vertically, we're talking horizontally here. Hirchek es hasikuch min hadfonos shlosh tfachim. Imagine the top of the wall, but there is a space of 3 tefachim from the top of the wall to where the schach starts. Hirchek es hasikuch min hadfonos shlosh tfachim psula. Then the sukkah would be psula. Here, therefore, we find that 3 tefachim airspace would be enough to make this considered to the sukkah now to be a sukkah pesula. Whereas in an earlier Mishnah we mentioned, according to Rabbi Yehuda, one's allowed beams up to 4 tefachim. That's still considered good enough. Here, even at 3 tefachim, an airspace makes the sukkah a sukkah pesula. And the reason for this, explained by the Taz, the Mishnah Berurah quotes this, is that it's more recognizable, it's more noticeable. If there's an airspace of just 3 tefachim, that would be sufficient to show that this is really, there's something missing with the sukkah, and therefore that would make the sukkah a sukkah pesula. Whereas with boards themselves, up to the size of 4 tefachim would be perfectly in order.